Hola, SAP developers. Welcome to the second session, part of the TourFest 2025 integration track. Before we start, please feel free to drop us your questions on the chat window as we will be monitoring it and we will answer your questions there. There will also be some time for Q&A, so don't worry about it. Now, this is a very interesting session. I'm very much keen to learn more about event-driven architectures whenever it's possible. And today we're fortunate enough to have Harry, who is a developer advocate at Solus, which is the technology that powers SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh, right? And he will tell us basically how event-driven architectures can enable our clean core best practices. Without any further delay, hola, Harry, over to you.
Hey, hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this session on clean core and the advanced event mesh. Thanks, Antonio, for having me here. Hi, I'm Hari. I'm a developer advocate from Solus, and as Antonio mentioned, Solus is the underlying platform of the BTP advanced event mesh. Let's move on to what we'll be talking about today. We'll be starting off with what is a clean core principle in SAP. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it because you are all SAP developers and SAP experts. We'll be talking about why achieving clean core and keeping the clean core is challenging, especially over time, and how the SAP BTP Advanced Event Mesh can contribute to this. Right? As a solution, not as a problem itself. We'll be moving on to why we need to visualize business processes as events, because that's the core of event-driven architecture, of course, and how events can be described as nouns, verbs, and properties. Yeah. Lastly, we'll come on to a new integration paradigm called as micro-integrations. We'll talk about what are micro-integrations, why micro-integrations, and how it contributes to the clean core concept in the larger picture. As a part of my session description, I promised you a demo. So of course, I'll be doing a demo. We'll walk through a small introduction to the Solus platform. We'll cover overlapping topics on how different platform, Solus platform or AEM platform components help or contribute to the clean core aspect. We'll move on to a demo where we publish some business partner events and consume them using the micro-integration patterns, right? Of course, we'll reserve some time for Q&A, so feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and Antonio and I will be more than happy to answer them. Okay, so without much ado, let's get started off. Keeping the core clean. Yeah, I think it started off around like 10 years ago. And in our current world, where every system and every business process within an enterprise is aiming towards digital transformation, this clean core principle is more than just a word, right? It's among the foundational aspects for enterprises looking forward to future-proof their large and, of course, very expensive SAP landscapes. Now, as per the clean core principle, technology should move towards API first, event-driven approaches, modular architecture. Organizations must decouple their custom business implementations from the core SAP landscape or the core SAP code base. And this ensures agility, scalability, and of course, reduces upgrade complexities, right? Sure. Why we want to do this? Because we see a lot of benefits from the clean core, right? So, for example, improved performance when you have custom logic, excessive enhancements, or non-essential business processes, they are removed or relocated to outside the core. The core system processes fewer extraneous tasks. Right. So this helps reduce latency, improves throughput, and delivers a much better customer experience. Right. And of course, with leaner core, resources like CPU, I/O, memory are more focused on the essential business operations rather than being shared with ad hoc logic. And over time, there's fewer noise or side effects, inadvertent side effects from custom code helps maintain performance consistently over upgrades or patches. Yeah. So, with respect to enhanced stability and reliability, when you remove these unnecessary complications or complexities like custom patches, bespoke extensions, there are fewer potential failure points to fail, right? Or interactions that can lead to bugs or regressions. A cleaner core means fewer unexpected dependencies, where a tweak in one custom code can cascade and break others, right? And during upgrades, of course, system stability is less at risk because there is less code to refactor or adapt and fewer surprises from intertwined custom logic. Cost reduction. Maintenance costs go down. Fewer custom enhancements means lesser ongoing debugging, lesser regression testing, and less effort when upgrading or patching. It reduces your downtime. Because the system is more stable, there are fewer unplanned upgrades or outages or unplanned outages or emergencies caused by custom logic, causing issues or interfering with the core. Long-term savings, initial investment to clean up a core and maintain a clean core is there. Yes, we can't deny that. But over the life cycle, the savings in support, upgrades, and risk mitigation, it pays off. It also simplifies operation. And let's be very honest, it saves people or developers from waking up at 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning because an SAP upgrade caused some issues in some custom extension, right? So it helps keep people and developers and employees happy, of course. Simplified development. Developers can work in a more predictable, uncluttered environment. There is less legacy debt to maintain, worry about, fewer tangled dependencies, more confidence while making changes. A smaller, more focused code base accelerates onboarding, code reviews, refactoring, and innovation in general, right? And of course, the tooling, for example, things like static analysis, testing frameworks, they work more reliably when there is less custom artifact noise. And because the core is more standard, more stable, innovations and extensions are easier to slot in without, you don't have to fight existing complexities, right? And lastly, and the most major one, I think, is staying current with a clean core. Upgrades, patches, and new releases of SAP become less disruptive because fewer custom modifications need less adaptation, right? Simple as that. The business can more readily adopt new SAP features, innovations, or improvements, security compliances, for example, or new modules without being blocked by legacy customizations. It helps in ensuring future compatibility and reduces the risk of being locked out of enhancements because, yeah, there are too many custom modifications or core modifications. And I've actually been in such circumstances where enterprises could not migrate off their legacy and go into cloud S4, for example, because their S4 was completely custom built at some stage over the years, right? And overall, staying current becomes feasible instead of becoming a massive, risky, multi-release project. Actually, one of the best examples of this is, I think, from Hitachi, which reduced their SAP upgrade projects from 1.5 years to 2.5 months or something on those lines, right? That's a massive difference. Let's just see 1.5 years, 2.5 months. That's big. That's huge. Okay. So we talked about core clean core, the benefits of it. Let's talk about some of the challenges, right? Um, let's envision your clean core as a big bucket, and you have all these holes or leakages that does not help that bucket filling up, right? So let's talk about some of those. So the first one would be insufficient extensibility. Some business requirements cannot be met by SAP standard extension points or released API, APIs, etc. So the existing set of extension tools, especially in older legacy systems, is often also not enough. When custom logic requires custom touching the core objects or modifying standard behavior, that breaks the clean core principle or paradigm, right? So the lack of upgrade stable, documented supported extension points means that during upgrades or cloud migrations, customizations might fail. may require heavy refactoring, or just no longer may be supported, right? Integration complexity. Many legacy or even brownfield SAP landscapes have many integrations, right? On-premise, third-party systems, legacy systems, batch jobs, file transfers, etc. They are often very tightly coupled. For example, directly invoking internal tables, functions, module routines, or depending upon internal SAP behaviors, etc. When trying to decouple and modernize or move towards event-driven or API-based integrations, for example, the existing integrations may no longer support standards or may be hard to refactor without affecting process stability. Data issues, poor data quality, things like duplicate tables, inconsistent master data, data fields that are repurposed or used in phase that are simply not being envisioned or intended by SAP core developers or analysts, unused custom tables or fields. This is what we call as rot, right? So redundant, obsolete, and trivial. So legacy data, or rot legacy data that has built over so many years in SAP ECC or older systems. When migrating to S/4HANA or implementing cloud, um, carrying over this bad data increases system maintenance, slows down processes, hurts reporting, analytics, performance, and it generally undermines your trust in the data that you have, right? This is a big challenge, especially when you're adapting or you are saying, okay, we need to move to a new S4, or you're having new functionalities and you want to convince your business stakeholders about using them. They would be saying the data is simply not there. The data is, I can't trust that data. That's a big factor to think about. High upfront investment. Implementing clean core is not as easy or simply turning on like a switch, right? It requires analysis of existing custom code, data cleanups, refactoring, retraining people, of course, potentially redesigning business processes to reduce dependency on custom logic. There is often a cost in time, resources, people, tools, and potentially slow delivery of feature requests in the initial phases. The immediate return on investment is quite unclear, or often unclear or delayed. So yeah, it's a thing that you have to deal with. Skills and tooling gaps. Clean core requires a different kind of skill sets. For example, cloud platforms, BTP, modern extension techniques, API first or event-driven architecture first thinking. Tooling and analyzing custom code also, measuring usage of custom objects, detecting redundant tech objects, um, accessing the upgrade risk. They're not often of the same robustness as of other open source technologies. And lastly, hybrid landscapes, right? So most organizations are not greenfield. Let's be frank. They have SAP systems, on-premise, older ECC versions, custom ABAP code, external non-SAP systems, and are migrating to S/4HANA or the public cloud or private cloud in phases. So they end up with a mixed environment, right? And this introduces complexity around version mismatches, compatibility of extension models, data synchronization, overlapping functionality, differing governance or standards across geographies or units. There is also an aspect of just non-functional requirements being involved in leading to these hybrid landscapes, right? So, for example, you could have enterprises which, uh, for security and compliance, need to have certain elements or certain data objects on-prem. They have made a choice of a single cloud, or because of things like cloud arbitrage or availability or risk or disaster recovery, they say that, okay, we can't do a single cloud service provider, but then you have to do multiple cloud service providers. So even with those factors, you're ending in with an on-prem, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud kind of a setup. So this is something that is really difficult to overcome and bridge these differences, right? Um, Having talked about that, let's look at how clean core works across dimensions, right? Let's talk about what are the different ways to achieve clean core, and then we'll deep down into one of them specifically. So, clean core can be spread across 5 different dimensions. The business processes. Clean core does not mean that you can't be competitive. It means limiting complexity in processes, staying close to SAP's standard best practices, reduce your variant or custom workflows to only what is really essential. In terms of extensibility, you decouple your extensions from the SAP standard, which means that any custom or new logic shouldn't really tamper with your core objects. Use upgrade stable APIs, models, extension points, or external side-by-side systems, right? Like, for example, BTP or an advanced event mesh to host and process on custom logic. Data elements, control data according to the latest standards, ensure master data consistency, remove redundant tables and fields, archive or retire obsolete custom data. Clean data ensures your performance, correct analytics, and also avoids hidden technical depths in the data layer. From an integration perspective, it ensures that the landscape remains reliable and flexible. You should avoid brittle, tightly coupled point-to-point interfaces. You should favor asynchronous, event-driven integrations that can evolve independently of SAP's internal code. Yeah. Operations, of course, the core clean core must also extend to how you operate and manage your system. So in terms of monitoring, logging, alerting, deployments, lifecycle management, change control, and stuff like that, you have to embed governance, standardized tools, clear procedures, and automate lifecycle tasks, document, test, monitor, and maintain continuously. Maintain continuously. That's the key to keeping your core clean over time. Yeah. Now, like I mentioned, clean core is a big aspect. It's a big part, and it's difficult to focus on or expand on all of these dimensions. So we'll be focusing towards especially on extensibility and because of AEM due to integration, right? So let's talk about that. So extensibility, the clean core strategy focuses on keeping your custom code extensions and integrations outside the SAP S/4HANA digital core. It can also be ECC as well. You can apply these same concepts and principles to ECC landscapes as well. Leverage side-by-side extensibility using SAP BTP and advanced event mesh. Use and stable APIs and events to communicate between systems and layers, right? All of these, they essentially come down to your upgrade and extend to making sure that upgrades and extensions do not interfere with each other, right? Now let's move on to why I am advocating the SAP BTP Advanced Event Mesh as a first principle, right? Um, to achieve the clean core strategy, event-driven architecture plays an important role by decoupling the processes through individual events, right? Following the loosely coupled framework and avoiding tightly coupled integrations. Let me reiterate that point again. EDA plays an important role by decoupling the processes through individual events. And then we'll come to this statement in a few slides, right? So let this just stick in your mind that EDA plays an important role by decoupling your processes through individual events, right? So moving on, SAP Advanced Event Mesh enables EDA that decouples the source of truth, systems like S/4HANA, SuccessFactors, C4C, etc., from the consumers, like external applications, APIs, extensions, and external systems, right? And here is why it is foundational to clean core. So asynchronous communication, no tight coupling between systems, Extensibility lets consumers build side-by-side extensions without modifying the core. Scalability, you can support multiple consumers with minimal configuration overhead. Loose integration, you replace your point-to-point interfaces with the publish-subscribe model. So you publish one, and you can subscribe n number of times in n number of interfaces or n number of consumers, right? And they are all completely decoupled or independent of each other. So that means that you can add in 1, 2, 5, 10 more consumers without having any impact on the producer or any of the existing consumers, right? Now, let's look at a small use case and look at how it would work with an AEM or EDA-driven architecture cycle, right? A simple use case. You're onboarding a business partner in S/4HANA. Without a clean core, you would talk about custom ABAP extensions in S4 to trigger your business partner creation or update changes. You would have direct calls or iDocs triggering downstream applications like Ariba, C4C, Commerce Cloud, external applications from S4, right? Every new consumer or change would mean that there is new code, regression testing involved, and also making sure that your performance of your other integrations are not impacted by this new one, right? Whereas with a clean core system, you would have S4 that's triggering the business partner creation event via event enablement cockpit. AEM captures the events and routes it to all the subscribers. The subscribers can be CPI, CAP applications, SAP Commerce Cloud, iFlows, anything that you want, right? Performs the required logic without modifying the core system. No enhancements, no code in the core, just events, clean extensions, and unlimited subscribers, right? That's it. Now, um, you remember something that we said, I think in the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. EDA helps in linking your in visualizing your processes as events, right? And that's what we'll be talking about now, right? So as you start adopting EDA, the first thing that you need to ask is, what are the things that your business stakeholders would like to know about and respond in real time? This means that you can start visualizing your business process, each and every business process, as events. Now, what are events? Events are essentially something that has occurred in the past, right? And the Solus and the Advanced Event Mesh platform team, we find that the best way to define these events is using a combination of three things. Noun, which defines what is the object that has changed. The verb, what is the change that has occurred, right? So because it's in the past tense, it's usually in the past as well. And the properties which define the adjectives or the change or describe the change itself, right? So let's look at some examples, right? Now, if you're in a manufacturing floor or an FMCG organization or something on those lines, you could have a variety of different processes. Things like production line has started, something has loaded on, a task has been executed. Right now, each and every one of these event processes, like production or start, or the start of a production, can be visualized as production started as a noun, or the production, the noun or the thing, the verb that has happened to the thing. So in this case, production started, and the properties, right? So it could be something on the lines of production line, job ID, or task ID, the date timestamp, who is monitoring or who is leading that production, the component that it's being going towards, things like those. Find the properties that you feel can be used by your consumers, and those are the properties that go in for your definition, right? Now, let's look at a couple of other examples. So in a logistics or a shipping domain, you could have something like a container, right? It's emptied. So container 5 or container 6 is emptied. And the properties which define these event, the container empty event, is container ID, a time, location, the next destination of that container. Or you could have a booking ID or a booking D1, which has been modified or canceled. And you could have things like the booking ID, the changes made, the who made the changes, right? The time when the changes was made, right? In case it's canceled, you can talk about things like when it was canceled, why it was canceled, and the user who canceled it, right? Now, let's some more examples just to drive the point home. In case you are at a retail domain, you could say an online payment, it failed, and obviously why you would talk about the customer ID who is in charge of that payment, the order ID for that payment, the reason why it failed. Maybe the PSP was down, maybe the account didn't have enough funds, the time or the machine or the POS terminal was down or something on those lines, and the time that this happened, right? If you have a delivery, you could say delivery area F, and it has been extended to new, extended for whatever reason. And some of the properties you could use to define them is the new postcodes, the date, the impact of the new location and stuff like that. So visualize your business processes as events, and events are the language of the event-driven thinking or EDA, and you visualize them or you express them as nouns, verbs, and properties, right? Noun is the object that has been changed. Verb is the actual change that occurred, or whether it's created or deleted, updated, shipped, whatever. And the properties define the change that has occurred on that object, right? I hope everybody is clear at me at this point. Let's move on to the next part. So let's talk about the adoption of EDA and as SAP Advanced Event Mesh in your enterprise, right? If you visualize this globe as your enterprise, you would have different SAP and non-SAP systems spread across multiple infrastructure landscapes, different cloud service providers, multiple iPaaS systems, monitoring tools, different APIs, protocols for communicating with different systems, a lot of difference, right? A lot of them. Your EDA adoption, on the other hand, is quite simple. Create one or more AEM instances. And if you have more AEM instances, you can put them together in a mesh or a network of these brokers. Connect your publishers and subscribers. Let the events flow, right? Simple. Nice idea. That's a simple idea, nice idea. But how do you exactly achieve this, right? Let's talk about that. We have a 4-step flow to do this journey. So the first one would be to liberate your data, right? And you do this liberation using a new paradigm or a new thought process that we call as micro integrations, right? Micro integrations are like microservices. They are small, single in purpose, decentralized, right? They do one thing and they are good at that thing, right? So essentially you could say anything that produces or consumes events from the advanced event mesh can be termed as a micro integration as long as they are small, modular, and decentralized, right? If you produce or onload events to the advanced event mesh, you can call it as a source micro integrations. So we have source micro integrations at the edge of the enterprise format, the event broker and the mesh, right? And the event broker and the mesh, they distribute the single format to as many targets as required. If your application or your micro integration is consuming events from the broker, you call them as target micro integrations. They are scalable and they're independent consumers for this event, right? With this approach, we have a lot of benefits. On the source side, you have a source processing and robust decoupling. You are deploying your micro integrations to the close to the broker or to the source for reliability, performance, and ease of network configurations. You're publishing events to the advanced event mesh, which can absorb input bursts with no loss and, of course, maintains order. So first in, first out. From a destination process and robust decoupling perspective, you have real-time decoupling of producers and consumers using these target microintegrations. You can have unlimited fan-out scalability. You have unbreakable robustness, right? So we have been, Solace and AEM has been working with SAP and non-SAP enterprises for a very long time, like 20 years now, 22 years now. And we are known for robustness, right? So we can scale and robust and be robust all at the same time. You can do uneasy and unlimited scaling. You don't need to modify or expand and hard-coded integration process. As your load increases, your target micro integrations will be scaled automatically in a cloud managed way. And when your load reduces, they'll be scaled down so that you are more efficient with your resources, right? And there are multiple ways to implement micro integration. So you could have something like an SAP CI or a Boomi or a MuleSoft or any other iPaaS of your choice, of your enterprise choice. So the AEM platform will provide a variety of different micro integrations by inbuilt within itself. All you have to do is, of course, have a license and go and deploy them. And the AEM platforms takes care of the scalability, health, monitoring, and all that stuff for you. Or if you're the more custom code or more in-house shop or your enterprises like that, you could do these micro integrations in a variety of different code frameworks like Python, serverless functions, Spring Boot applications, right? Etc. Right? The only point is they have to be small, modular, single in purpose, and decentralized, right? An important note is that iFlows as well, right? Because we are an integration track talk, iFlows as well should be developed as micro integrations and not macro integrations. Don't pile up stuff, don't pile on stuff into your iFlows. Keep it small, keep it simple, keep it scalable and maintainable, right? And that brings in value to your micro integrations. So we have our events on the broker. What do we do next? We stream and filter them, right? So using smart topics, so AEM has these multi-level hierarchical smart topic structures where you can have something that looks like inventory, which has been stocked, and there's a SKU ID and the store ID for that event, right? Or you could have a sales order which has been created by the name of the order or the smith, that's the last name, and you have the SKU ID and the region in which this order was placed, right? So publishers, they describe and tag their events and publish it as a stream. These streams of events are automatically filtered by the broker, by the AEM broker, so that consumers get exactly and only what they need, right? So this allows your micro integrations to be small, simple, focus on what the business logic is, rather than doing boilerplate code like getting 100,000 events and filtering out those small set of 10,000 events that it needs to work on, right? So the advanced event mesh, it streams events across locations and environments in a seamless way. It has ubiquitous access to events without configuration changes or point-to-point replications. And the key to micro integration and resilience is keeping the routing and the filtering logic out of the consumers or the micro integrations, right? So we are producing these events. You could have a Salesforce micro integration which says, give me all inventory objects or inventory events which have been stocked or replenished or out of stock or whatever, only for store 1, 2, 3. So you can do something like this kind of a subscription. Or you could have a mobile application with a user who is saying, okay, you know what? Give me all orders which I have, which are related to my user ID. So my user XYZ. Or You could have an analytics or an internal analytics guy or an analyst who is looking at I want to have all sales order related information for this specific SKU, right? So you could do those. You could also do something like sales orders star, which can be dumped into an Snowflake kind of an analytics platform, where you can do more analysis and dashboarding on them, right? So we liberated our data, we got the data, we filtered them and made it available to the consumer. What do you do next? You implement your business logic, you react and integrate, right? So you integrate and orchestrate, you react and integrate with several different consumers and business logic implementations. You can implement it or integrate it with RAG agents if you want. You can invoke agentic AI flows with these events as well as required. Yeah. So the sky is your limit. So you can do as many integrations, as many micro integrations, as many consumers as you need without being concerned about their effect on a side or an adjacent consumer, right? Now, you obviously want to do all of this in a democratized and then governed manner, right? So curate events, make them discoverable with the event portal. That's a part of the advanced event mesh. You can eliminate data and organizational silos. So you make sure that your event catalog is available or visible throughout your enterprise so that stakeholders from different lines of businesses know what's available, know what's in your event mesh. Yeah. And they understand the meaning and context in non-technical terms. Yeah. But you need to have control, guided, and governed access to these events. You want to protect sensitive events, you want guardrails to enforce best practices. You can do that with the event portal. You can have a flow where it's visible to different lines of businesses, but they can only get access to that event when they have made a business case and they have requested approval or access from the stakeholder who owns those events, right? You can also use code generation for developer productivity, all embedded within your event portal. And you, most importantly, you treat your data and events as products, right? Something that can be commercialized, something that can be made is valuable, right? Now, micro integrations, we have a lot of them. These micro integrations in the SAP world are available as cloud managed micro integrations. What that means is you have them, get a license for them. Currently, it's in a beta program. What that means is you'll have to make an agreement with SAP that you want to participate in this beta program, and reach out to me if you want to have more information on this. I can talk to you about it. And when you have that approval and when an SAP is included in your beta program, you can start trying them out, right? The AEM platform, it helps of maintaining scalability. It deploys them. It helps them in scalability, helps you in scalability. It helps you in getting the network configurations and everything right in place. It's installed as a side-by-side to the broker itself. We have these micro integrations available, and you can have, and we are adding a lot more, right? And of course, you even have a micro integration development kit to build your own micro integration. But bear in mind that this will be kind of your own self-hosted, self-deployed, self-managed micro integration. It's if you are more towards that line, or your enterprise is more towards self-hosting and self-management, it's something that you can do as well. Yeah. So a quick recap on this, micro integrations, source and target micro integrations, anything that onloads and offloads events to the advanced event mesh is a micro integrations. They are small, modular, single purpose. They do one job and they do it really well. iFlows should be developed as micro integrations and not macro integrations. For streaming connectors and data integrations, when iFlow and CI connectors are not available, micro integrations can be used. But yeah, use iFlows when you have them, use CIs when you have them, and keep them small, right? And consume events and publish events off to the event broker, right? Now, we spoke about micro integrations, we spoke about clean core. How do they work together? Why are they relevant to each other, right? Um, So micro integrations allow for externalizing your logic, right? So transformations, validations, routings that might otherwise be custom code in the SAP core and platform. So reduction of these modifications and enhancements directly in the code, right? By routing the via the advanced event mesh plus the micro integrations, you can avoid a lot of point-to-point integrations or point-to-point connections. Instead, systems publish events, and any target micro integration can subscribe, right? And I mean any and many of them. So this reduces coupling. So because custom logic is externalized using custom integrations, micro integrations, connectors, and processors outside the core, there is less risk that core SAP changes break downstream custom logic. Upgrades are less painful. Clean core strategy in SAP emphasizes the use of standard APIs and interfaces for extending. Micro integrations align with that, right? Scaling and performance. Micro integrations can be deployed close to the source or the target and scaled independently. Even dissemination via advanced event mesh means that many subscribers without exploding your point-to-point edges, right? And this helps meet demand in real time, edge, AI, etc without overloading the SAP core itself. And lastly, governance and event visibility, because micro integrations and the advanced event mesh track events. You can have centralized features for monitoring, logging, discovery via the event portal, for example. It's easier to see what integrations exist, trace them, avoid duplications, or reduce your redundant customizations inside then outside the core, right? So that is part of my slides. And like I said, I promised you a demo, so of course you'll go to a demo. But before that, I want to just jump on to Antonio and see, hey, if you have any questions that can talk about.
There are some questions in the chat. There's
Oh,
actually quite some interaction in the chat, but they're
oh,
mainly not focused on what you've talked so far. There are some other
mm-hmm,
questions related to AM. There is one specific that I think that it would be important for you to address. So
sure.
Vijayendra asked, how do other EDA frameworks like AWS, SQS, SNS
Mm-hmm.
compare to advanced event mesh? Like what factors should be taken into account when choosing AEM, for example, over other EDA solutions? So available in the market. So in your opinion.
Right. So EDA solutions or EDA platforms, they are mainly categorized on three ways, right? So you have the log-based brokers like Kafka, Red Panda. They are mostly geared towards streaming and analytical use cases, right? So things like you want to have all your data moving from different sources into one huge data warehouse or data lake, and you want to do event sourcing where you want to replay petabytes of data. Use Kafka or Red Panda or something like that, right? AWS, SNS, SQS, and things like those, they are tiered or tied in towards a single cloud service provider. So if your whole enterprise is saying that, yes, we want to get onto this particular cloud hyperscaler and we'll build everything into that one, sure, those might be a good choice, but do remember that most of those services, like AWS, SNS, SQS, etc., they guarantee or they provide at least once delivery mechanism, right? So they can't guarantee idempotency by default, right? However, the advanced event mesh acts as a bridge for all these different landscapes. So you can have a Kafka cluster and you can link it to an AWS cluster via the advanced event mesh or through the advanced event mesh. And you use the advanced event mesh for your real-time integration or real-time operational use cases where you have events coming in, millions and millions of events, and you want to disseminate them to hundreds and thousands of these consumers, right? And each consumer requires only a small set of those millions of events. That's your use case. That's your USP. right? And more importantly, if you have hybrid or multi-cloud infrastructure, AEM helps you bridge all those gaps. And that's something that we see a lot in our customers. I think that answers your question.
Yep, definitely. Thank you very much. There are some other questions regarding licensing and more sort of that sort of stuff, and I'm addressing them on the chat. So I would say
Okay,
that
that's perfect.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So let's get on to the demo, right? So what I'm gonna be doing is I'll walk through oh, this one. Yeah, I'll walk through the AEM platform, and I'll link back a few of the features to the clean core principles that we talked about before, right? So that it sort of stays relevant on how AEM helps you achieve clean core. So in the we'll start with the bottom. So we have insights, which helps you in monitoring and governing in a standard way your whole EDA landscape, right? So you can see which brokers are functioning well or not functioning well, what are the alerts, what are the warnings, and things like those. You have the cluster manager, which helps you identify all your different brokers spread across different environments, right? Now, this is one place where you have governance and guardrails coming in. This is important because you do not want your you don't want everybody to have access to every single broker, right? You want, for example, developers to have access to your development environment grade brokers, but not to production or integration, right? Things like those. You have the mesh manager where you can attach these different brokers spread across different geographical locations, different cloud service providers, etc., into a single coherent network, which allows for seamless flow of events between them, right? Of course, you have the micro integrations. We'll create a micro integration and we'll see how that happens. So these are the full list of micro integrations that are available right now, and we'll add in more and more of them, right? And coming over to the this section, which we call as the event portal, right? So the event portal, it has a designer, it has a catalog, a runtime manager, and a KPI dashboard. So I'll go through each of them simply, right? So the designer is the one part where you design your application domains. An application domain is essentially a group of artifacts in terms of schemas, events, payloads, topics, and applications which are interacting with each other. Then you have the catalog, which is a single pane of glass view into all your objects across your enterprise. But of course, you can do them in a governed and access controlled manner, right? So there are some places, some events where you can have auto approval on them. They are shared, but you can have some things which are not shared, but and require access, explicit approval from the stakeholder when they want others to access them, right? You have the runtime mesh manager. This is where you say, I want to have a list of all my brokers and objects which are connected to each other, right? So when you deploy an application to a broker, you will see it over here. When we do that in the next steps, I can show it to you, right? And the KPI dashboard. So one of the most important things is you publish an event once, you consume it multiple times. That's how you see that you are getting the maximum value from your events, right? And this is a small KPI that measures it. So we call it as the event reuse index, right? Make efficient uses of your events as much as possible. Now let's go back to the designer and look at what we are building today. So I have this nice application domain which goes in here. And over here, I have this S/4HANA system, which is publishing a variety of events, right? So I have a business partner created and updated, ledger entry created, updated, low inventory systems, and the production schedule publishing, right? And as you can see, all of them are in the past tense, right? So it says that I have this business partner created event. It is on this topic space. So SAP ERP business partner, create the version identifier, the properties of this event itself, right? So if you remember, our E equal to MVP or events can be described as nouns, verbs, and properties. Noun, that's the business partner. Verb, that was create. And the properties, which are V1. So this is a V1 version of this event. The business partner ID or the type, sorry, and the partner ID itself, right? Now, let's look at the schemas or the payload that goes into these events. So you can have a schema which looks like this, and we support Afro, JSON, XMLs, anything that you want, you can work with. And this is kind of the schema of the payload that should go into it. Now, SAP by default also and goes into cloud events. Cloud events is also supported in over here. Right. So I'm going to go back into the cloud business partner created event. And in the business partner over here, you see that it's published by the SAP HANA, and you have these different consumers for it, right? So each and every one of these consumers is a micro integration. So for example, you could have a business partner which is consumed by an iFlow, and that iFlow then pushes it into a CRM system. You can have a CAP processor on this event, right? We have an SAP AEM plugin for CAP applications, which has been released recently, so you can try that out. You have business events which can be pushed out to Snowflake. You have business events which can business partner create events which can be pushed out to a file in an SFTP folder if you feel that's relevant or you have a use case like that, right? Now, let's in the interest of time, I'm going to do two of these micro integrations. So an iFlow one and a Snowflake one, right? So let's keep it really simple. Okay, so what we do is we create this. As you can see, it is subscribing to these business partner created and updated events. I'm creating a small consumer, or it has created one for me already. So this is the name of my consumer. So I say business partner to CRM iFlow. I want to create this queue, which I want to consume these events from. And these are the changes or the subscriptions that will go onto this particular iFlow or this queue, right? So we do configurations, we deploy it to this broker, and we say, let's start promoting it, right? So, okay, and preview the promotion. And when you do that, it tells you, the event portal tells you, okay, what are you getting actually publishing to the broker, or what are you configuring on the broker, right? So it says this is your ACL profile for this application. It is this is a client credentials for this applications, and this is a queue which is going to be created with these events, right? Now, before I start publishing it, I want to go in and my bad. Promote. I'll do that because I want to get rid of this page. I'll go into this. I'll open up my broker, which is over here. I go into my broker and I see I have a queue, right? So this is a queue that was just created, right? Now, I have a small feed application or an application which will produce these events or the business partner events and that I'm looking for. So let's get started off with that. What I want to do is I want to produce 10 events, right? And let's keep it simple. And this is the the iFlow itself that I have, and what it's doing, and I have deployed this, and what it's doing is, okay, I go back. This is fun.
Well, session timeouts,
Yeah,
they
of course.
always
Security credentials.
they
Security.
they
We
always
agree with
happen
that.
during
And we all love
demos.
that. Yeah, of course. Okay. Integration suite. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading. Okay, wonderful. So it's a very simple iFlow. It consumes this event from the broker. It consumes it from this particular queue. I do some parameter initialization. I set it at the content type because I'm recalling a REST API call, and I'm doing a simple request reply. So all of you guys over here are integration specialists, so you know how to do this blindfolded, right? So I won't bore you with this. On the CRM side, because I don't have a running CRM, what I have is I have a nice webhook which will receive or which will get these inputs, and you can see what was the payload on it, right? Now, let's publish some business partner create events, right? And I say start, it's publishing these events. If I go to my queue and I refresh it, you see some of my messages are getting queued in here and they are being consumed at the same time. If I go back to my cloud integration, you will see that it's consuming those events as well. And if I go off to my application, here I am, right? So this is the latest event. And if I go back to my feed, I should have a Virginia somewhere. The last one, maybe? Oh, okay. Okay, so what they're essentially doing is I just took something that was published and it looks like my VS Code, my VS Code, Visual Studio Code. It looks like this. It's a simple business partner, an address number, and a partner ID and a business partner type. And it was received, or a similar thing was received in over here as is, right? So I haven't really done anything with it, right? So it just goes in, I just get in what was processed, right? Simple as that. Now, that's a micro integration for you, right? So it's simple to the edge, does one thing and does it good. So it has some exception handlings. You can do more of these, of course. Now, let's go beyond it. How do we say that we want to dump it into a Snowflake micro integration or a Snowflake connector? We go into the designer over here. We do the same thing. We deploy a queue and everything, of course. I have the same subscription setup. I have deploying it to the my broker that I have set up for this, and I say promote version, right? Now, one thing that's interesting is this broker I can publish or deploy my configuration changes. Other brokers I can say don't, you cannot be able to, or you should not be able to deploy, right? You can control all of those. And that's what's a part of the guardrails that I mentioned before. I promote it, it gets deployed. Yes, it's in. Let's go and create our micro integration. We'll keep it really simple. We go in here, we say create a micro integration. This is, I want a Snowflake target one. I call this BP events to Snowflake. I'm selecting the name of the broker that I want to go into. I'm putting in credentials. Where are my credentials? My credentials are in my VS Code, and I don't want to show that to you. So I'm going to do it over here. And this is my basic authentication. Of course, that's my username and the password. And I have these queues that I have created for it. So next, you can do a lot of these mappings from the source to the target platform, simple transformations if you want, simple mappings if you want between a source and a target, but we'll skip that for now. We'll keep it simple. The Snowflake URL that I have created over here, this goes in, it's my Snowflake name. I'm an account admin on my demo account, and I have a nice private key for me to use that I have put in. The name of my database, the name of my schema, and the name of my table, right? Simple. And lastly, I say that I want to create the schemas, the tables, whatever is not available. And I say, as you commit each and every record, you acknowledge the event on the queue, right? So create next summary and fingers crossed, deploy. It's deploying. It takes a couple of minutes to deploy. I know we are running out of time, but let's stay online if it's possible. what I'll do is I'll publish in a few more records, right? And these can lie in the queue for the consumer to come and pick it up, or the micro integration to come and pick it up when it's available, right? So as you can go and see into the queue, if I refresh this for this particular Snowflake queue, I should have 10 events, right? So it's lying there waiting for the consumer to come in. And it's deploying. Fingers crossed. It's deploying. Okay. Let's do a refresh again. Still deploying. But let's go and see what has happened in Snowflake if it's doing something, right? So this is my SAP events database, and I have the schema within it. I have, if I refresh it, it should create a table for me. It's there. The table is there. Let's just look at the micro integration status as well, just once. If I refresh this in a second, it's still deploying, but then it's doing something in the background at the least. So my table has been created, and it looks like this: a record content and a record metadata. Record content really contains the payload. The metadata contains the headers that you can map in over there. And let's go back to the queue for a second and see if it's consumed, right? So when I go back into the data preview, I see that I have these 10 records, right? And this is exactly the same, the payload that we were looking at. For example, how do I see this? I can't see this. But essentially, this is the same object that we were just publishing. So it's a business partner with an address link and all that stuff, right? And this micro integration is obviously deployed because it did it. Now, if I play in a few more of these events, let's say 10 more of these events, I should get in these in my queues, and they'll be consumed and dumped into the record, into the different end target systems like in the Snowflake or my or in my this one, or in my REST CRM or dummy and REST API, as you can see, right? So the last one is 12.2, just this minute. So that's was the demo that I had promised. You publish one, you can subscribe to n number of systems and n number of consumers without worrying about their impact on any other adjacent consumers. You talk about micro integration. We talked about micro integrations and how micro integrations drives your clean code principle, right? So and that's the end of it. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to answer them.
Well, that was a lot.
A lot.
But that
Yeah,
was
I know, a lot.
that was great. That was great. Like even with that deployment, sort of slowly deploying, but it's a deployment in the end.
Yeah,
It's quite impressive actually of everything that the deployment actually takes care of, right? Like creating that table for you and actually getting all those yeah, there you go, running. Everything's fine.
learning, exactly.
Yeah. So and seeing the data flowing, right? It was easy. Like what I
Yeah.
found very interesting is how you were using the event portal, to configure the object, at least the queue.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's one of my newest toys to play around with. Oktoberfest, and the nice thing is that you can add in a lot of these objects. For example, if you want to have an SNS, AWS, or an S3 integration, you can just drag and drop it here, and it goes off into an S3 bucket. Just drag these events like so. Do some configuration magic, and boom, it's there. Simple.
nice. Nice. Well, and it's also sort of a best practice, right? Because in the end, it's like
Exactly.
that's what's more important because in the end, it's like we can easily start creating, publishing, consuming
Yeah,
events, and not knowing exactly which systems are actually using that. And in this case, it's like it's
exactly.
well documented. You know exactly who's responsible for an event, all that sort of stuff. So definitely,
Exactly. That's precisely the main point. You can have a single pane of glass view into what event is being consumed by what application, on what topic, on what version identifier. And the best thing is, you can control, like I mentioned multiple times, you can control your deployments to specific environments and specific brokers. And you can do access control to these events when you have some sensitive information and you don't want that to be disseminated across your whole enterprise or your external third-party providers, for example, like book of ledgers, right? You don't want everybody to see what's in there. You just want a small subset of information for everybody. You can do all of that from the event portal. You can do all
correct.
that governance and maintenance from the event portal.
Correct, correct. Well, you know what? There were many questions in the chat, but they were mostly related to how to raise events from S/4HANA, more around yeah, licensing. So I do, and obviously with the event add-on, which is related to SAP Integration
Yeah,
Suite Events Event Mesh, and how it's part of the licensing of the product. But what I want to say to everyone who's still on the chat right now is that you can end up finding out more information about all this, and you can actually ask your questions directly to the PMs working on this next week. So we have two sessions about it. One session is just on the event add-on, and then there will be another session on the hands-on. Apart from that, I share all the links on the chat also,
yeah,
so do check them out. And we also have another session led by Carsten, who's the PM for everything event-driven architectures at SAP, which is Enterprise in Motion. And yeah, do check that out because you can actually get in touch with them directly. They will be able to answer your questions directly. Right?
that's
So
perfect. Good.
yeah, and yeah, and well, Ari, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and expertise in this session. I absolutely know that I've learned a lot from it. I'm definitely looking forward to exploring more on the advanced event mesh side of things, micro integrations and playing
Wonderful.
around with it. Yeah, and
Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you everybody for attending and asking all these interactive questions. So that's a QR code to my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me, and we can discuss more about AEM and event enabling your S4 landscapes and micro integrations and event portal and anything under the sky, right? So happy to be
excellent.
here. Thanks a lot.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and well, thank you to all the viewers, right? Because we still have quite
Of
a few
course.
viewers for joining the live event or watching the recording. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And just a reminder that there is plenty for everyone to learn during the Tourfest. So make sure to check out other sessions as part of the event. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a nice day ahead then.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye bye.